Good evening, and we are here today to bring you the first installment of many videos to come and many vlogs to come about cooking in your house so that you and your family can have a better life, a more healthy dinner, and something that doesn't take hours to cook, but just a few minutes of preparation. And we're here representing Trace Bros Tacos, and you're going to find the website tracebrostacos.com live here in the next couple of weeks. This blog is going to be interactive. It's going to be a daily deal. The videos are going to be once or twice a week for right now until we really get some momentum going. But I want to invite you to enjoy. And tonight we're going to be introducing a dish called Cioppino. Cioppino was first brought to life in San Francisco. The Italians came over, and there was a lot of gold mining going on in San Francisco, and the Italian Americans at that point brought their famous red marinara sauce and mixed it with some fish, many different varieties, and there began the life of Cioppino. Today we're going to be using some of the basic ingredients. I've already chopped and pre-prepped some of the onions and peppers that we're going to be using, and I'll introduce those real quick. I've just got a basic yellow onion, okay. Over here I've got some chopped red and green bell pepper. I've also got some garlic that I have peeled and sliced. I've got some chili peppers. I've got some ground chili peppers, as well as 3 Japanese chili peppers that we're going to use for flavoring. I've got oregano. Now, there are many thoughts on oregano, and of those thoughts there are many types of oregano, and this oregano is out of my garden. It is a German oregano, and it's got a great smell, a great flavor, a great body. It adds to the sauce, and it's going to be beautiful. I've got some fresh chopped tomato, and this is just a rough chop. As you can see, there's no conformity to how I chopped it or why, but it's got bigger pieces, smaller pieces still stuck together. It's okay at this point in the game. I've got one secret ingredient, that is a ½ teaspoon of sugar, and that's going to go in a little bit later. I am representing a little bit of balsamic vinegar tonight. What I have on hand is Colavita. It's not important the brand that you use, but it's important that you get a good quality balsamic vinegar. In my salt box here, I've got some kosher salt. I love kosher salt. We're going to, over the next few weeks, talk about different salts and introduce some new salts that maybe you've never heard of. We've got some extra virgin olive oil. I'm not sponsored by Badia. But this happens to be the virgin olive oil that I have on hand tonight. So that's what we're going to use. Let's get started. I've got a pan over here simmering, or heating up, and I'm going to add approximately those tablespoons, or 2 tablespoons, of extra virgin olive oil. And we're going to put that aside because we're done with it for now. And the first ingredient that's going to go in there are the onions, as well as the garlic. So let's get the garlic in there first. And what we're looking to do here is get the garlic brown for a little bit of flavor, but we're going to saute these onions to the point where they are getting a little bit translucent. You hear that nice sizzle. It's a nice hot pan over a medium-high. I don't have a fire. I've got an electric stove, and right now I'm at about 6 1/4 on my electric stove setting. Nothing special. You're going to see that with the most basic ingredients and with the most basic kitchen, you can make dishes for your family that are absolutely blowing restaurants out of the water. And this is what we're here to do today. So, just stirring it occasionally. You don't want to pay a whole lot of attention or too much time in the pan. Let things work. We've got fire, we've got heat, and we've got vegetables, and they're going to start cooking and doing their thing. And if you were with me right now, you'd be able to smell this wonderful onion and garlic mixture. Just because it's coming to life. It's something that's going to just light up the entire house with a beautiful smell. So from there, I'm going to prep you that we are going to put in our peppers next. And these are just, like I had mentioned before, green and red bell peppers, roughly chopped. It really, for this particular recipe, it doesn't matter how big or small you chop them. I think that about a 1/2 inch by 5/8 inch is about perfect, because it's going to cook at a constant level and consistently and add to the flavor. But these are going to break down in our sauce because we're going to let it simmer later, and that's going to allow it to just break down. Let's give these onions and garlic just a little more time here. That garlic is really coming alive. Sorry for the sound. Wonderful. So as we go into the night, I want to tell you that tonight I've got some scallops, I've got shrimp, I've got some red snapper, and I've got some clams and some greenlet mussels. And we're going to use that mixture, although in a particular Cioppino, it's really up to you what lights your fire, what type of seafood you really want to put in it. The one thing that I think I'm missing tonight is some crab legs, but they were not readily available for me this evening. Some of us that are landlocked have a little bit tougher time finding really good product as far as the fish goes, and you know, we just have to do what we can with what we have. And all right, so as you can see, our onions are translucent. They're starting to become see-through, and that's the effect we want. Our garlic has started to brown. In fact, it's golden. It is golden. It's looking good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and incorporate the bell peppers at this point and start to break those down a little bit, adding to the flavor as well as the ambiance in the house, because these add a whole new smell. Wonderful. Looks like a Christmas tree in there. Now, I think it's very important that as you cook, you've got a fresh kitchen or a sink full of hot water and soap, and you wash as you go. Tonight we're not going to do as much washing as we go, but I am going to go ahead and start placing these plates into the sink so that we have some free space to work with as we go on. Okay? So as the peppers start to cook up here, we're going to go ahead and add our diced or our shredded red chili flakes. Okay? As you can see there, I've got about a teaspoonful, maybe a little bit more. This is all going to be something that you want to do to your family's liking. I have to use less right now because I have 3 little boys that don't appreciate hot stuff as much as I do. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that in, and I'm going to go ahead and add these. Look at these peppers. These are beautiful Japanese chili peppers. I'm adding these not for the spice, but I'm adding these for the flavor. We're going to throw those in there. We're going to start getting all those peppers cooked up right along with everything else we've got going here. Okay? Oh yeah, that's looking good. As those chili peppers come alive, certain people in your house may or may not like it, more or less, but you know what? Part of cooking is sacrifice, and I truly believe that. So here we are, the chili peppers are looking good. Our peppers and onions and garlic mixture is looking good. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add my spice. I grabbed the tomatoes. I've got fresh oregano, or actually dried oregano from my own garden. This is a German oregano. There are many, many, many types of oregano that you can use. This particular oregano is what I have in the garden right now. And we're going to go ahead and add that and start getting the oregano incorporated with everything that's kind of sauteing up here. We don't need any more oil. We don't need any more moisture. There's enough in there. And these veggies will actually start to sweat a little bit and add some of their oil and some of their own moisture. And here in just a moment, you're going to see that we're going to add those tomatoes, and those tomatoes are going to start to fire up, break down, and really add to this plate. So, if you could get a really good vision right now of what we're looking at, that is a beautiful start to a Cioppino base right there. So, alright. Chilies are incorporated. We're going to go ahead and add our chopped tomatoes. And I have just one good-sized tomato to add tonight. So we're going to go ahead and add that before we go on to the next step. And what we want to do here is we don't really want to cook this tomato. We kind of want to saute that tomato still on medium-high heat so that we get just a little bit of the golden color on the outside as it starts to work its magic. The tomato adds acidity, but it also adds a great flavor to this dish. As you can see, this is the base where we start to really see a sauce start to form. And once we get to the next step, you're going to see how everything really starts to come together. The one thing I did forget to grab, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of the cupboard right now, is a little bit of ground pepper. And if you prefer, or if you have on hand fresh ground pepper, that's probably the best. Tonight I just have ground pepper that I'm going to go ahead and add. And I'm going to take the top off here. Risky. Put a little bit in my palm, because you don't want too much. You want a couple of pinches. Sprinkle that on in there. Get that flavor mingling with everything else that's going on in that magic platter right now. Okay? Stir it up a little bit. Now, as far as the actual sauce goes, you have several options. One of the main things that you can do is, if you're in a canning mode, if you have a lot of fruit and vegetables in your garden, you can can your own tomatoes. You can make your own tomato paste. You can do all sorts of things. For our basic purposes today, because we're looking for a fast, fun way to make dinner for the family, I've got 2 cans of pureed tomatoes. And actually, these tomatoes were in a stewed tomato form. I pureed them before you and I met tonight. And we're going to be adding that in just a second. I've also got a small 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, which we're going to incorporate. And this is what's going to make this whole dish as juicy as it needs to be. So, I think we're probably to the point. Everything's pretty dry, but it's got just enough moisture. I think it's time for us to go ahead and add our tomatoes. So let's start with the pureed stewed tomatoes first. And as you can see and hear, those pureed tomatoes are going to start simmering right away and boiling right away with the heat that we've got going on underneath this pan. Okay? We still don't want to turn down our heat. Keep your heat at 6, at a medium-high level. Okay? Looking good? I think so. I think we're going to go ahead and add one last tomato ingredient, which we already spoke of. But we've got this tomato sauce, and that's just going to bring out the full body a little bit more in our dish tonight. Incorporate that fully. And then it's time for one last ingredient before we put this to a simmer. So at this point, I'm going to add our half tablespoon of sugar. Okay? And I'm also going to add our kosher salt. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to a simmer, because we're starting to make a mess. And I want you to look at this kosher salt. I'm going to go at work being a little bit above and beyond with the salt. Big pinches. And folks, you've got to understand that the salt and pepper in this dish and any other dish is going to be to your preference, and you're going to figure out what that is. It's never too late to add salt later, but I will tell you that it is too late later to take salt out. So it's important that you start conservative, learn your limits, and add as you go. We can always add salt at the end. Okay, let's get one last look at what we're looking at for our base sauce here. Looking good? While you're looking at that, I'm going to add just a tiny dash of this balsamic vinegar. A no-no in many eyes, but it is an absolute necessity in my kitchen. And you're going to learn the flavors that come out from that vinegar. You don't want too much, no more than a couple of tablespoons. Incorporate all of that, and then we're going to put a lid on this and come back in about a half hour. We'll see you soon. Okay, we're back. So we've let our sauce simmer for a little bit. I'd like to take a minute to introduce you to our seafood selection for this evening. First off, we have some succulent shrimp. Guys, these are about 16/20s, which means there's 16 to 20 shrimp per pound. It doesn't matter what size shrimp you have. It just matters if you've got enough for your family, really. So we're looking at 3, 6, 7, 8 shrimp. We've got 5 of us. We'll be fine with that. It gives us a little selection. Next, we have some red snapper. Guys, I've chopped this into about a 2-inch by 1-inch piece. All of them the same, and we're going to enjoy this tonight. You can use any white fish. You can use any red fish or orange fish, like a salmon, anything like that you'd like to use. We also have some big sea scallops. I highly recommend using these over bay scallops. The little guys tend to get tough really quick, and they're not as succulent when you're going to eat them with a dish with all this other good fish. So, sea scallops, the big ones, the bigger the better. You just have to be careful that we don't overcook them. Next, we've got our green lip mussels and our razor clams. These clams are going to cook pretty quickly. The razor mussels are going to cook, the mussels are going to cook pretty quickly. The one thing you really have to know when you're buying clams and oysters and any sort of shellfish is that if you give it a cold, pause it.
More popcorn.
No, go. And then we have our clams and our mussels. The one thing I really want to emphasize when you're buying clams and mussels, if the shells are open, they're not good. Now, they can be open for a minute, but if you touch them, tap on them, or if you put them under a cold water in the bath, a cold bath water real fast, and they close, then they're still live. You don't want clams or mussels or any sort of oyster or shellfish that doesn't close really fast when it's time to take a cold bath. So if any of your mussels or clams are not closing when you wash them, get rid of them. I've discarded 1 or 2 this evening. My first step tonight was to wash these and get them ready for the show. So here we are. All of these are live creatures and they're ready to be cooked. So we've let our sauce simmer. I want to go back really fast because we talked about putting our balsamic vinegar in the sauce. And one of the things that I mentioned is that many people would frown on using balsamic vinegar. Those people instead might use a red wine or a red wine vinegar or something of the sort. I personally prefer just straight vinegar, but you have to use just a small portion. And during the simmering process, it's important that you leave the pot open for just a tad and let that the vinegar cook out of the sauce. So now we've got our sauce. The next step here is going to be determining which of these fish are going to cook at what rate. How fast are they going to cook? Because you want to put them in so that everything finishes cooking at the same time. Our shrimp, in this example, are going to take the longest time to cook. If you have a crab leg that you're going to put into your cioppino, the crab legs are merely a reheat process, so you don't need to cook them, so they would go in last. But in this example, with what I have here, our shrimp are going to go in first, then our red snapper, then our clams and mussels, and lastly is going to be our sea scallops. So I'm going to go ahead and incorporate the shrimp into this mixture. I'm going to get them good and saucy. We're going to go ahead and just push those in with the spatula there. And get them submerged completely. And at this point, you've still got it on a low simmer. I think we're going to go ahead and turn up the heat to a medium-high heat and allow this sauce to start bubbling just a little bit more aggressively. And so while we do that, we're also going to cover it, and we're going to let our shrimp cook just for a quick moment. Okay, so we are going to fold in our last ingredient, which is the sea scallops. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be moving on next week with another great recipe. More to that to come here in the beginning of the week. Have a great night, enjoy your dinner, and God bless you.